Hey, here we go, moving forward, away from Romeo and Juliet and into, something more creative. And the personal narrative unit, which is down here at the bottom of Schoology right now. All we have is the folder, which inside are some documents. One is a PDF that's right in Schoology, and the other one, it's the same document. It's just something you can access on Google Drive, so that if you wanted to download the PDF and have it accessible when you're not online, that may be the thing that you want to do. So for me, on the tablet, the best way for me to add this document to my files so that I can access it anytime I want is first you got to wait for it to load. But down at the bottom there's an icon and a link for this 23 megabyte document, and if you click on it, it'll open up in the PDF, and you can then go ahead and download it. So for me, downloading, I would like it as a PDF. And I'm going to save it to my files. Save. Well, must be I already downloaded it. I'll just replace it. I'll keep both, so just in case, because sometimes it takes a little while for it to show up in your files, just because it's a larger file, at least in my experience. See there they both are right now, as best as you can see them. Anyway, here's what it looks like when you have access to it on a tablet, for instance, or maybe even on your phone. 28 megabytes isn't necessarily a lot, depending on how much space is on your phone or on your tablet. Certainly your computer can handle it, I imagine. But this is what it looks like. This is the personal narrative unit. Inside here you'll see you've got a vocabulary assignment that's up and coming. We'll talk more about that later. This is just all about personal narrative and what it looks like. Here's an example personal narrative. It's a little bit longer than what you're going to create, but it's a good example. Just a basic understanding and how to tell stories. Another personal narrative example, followed by some questions, and then we start really thinking, what's the personal narrative going to look like for you? And essentially, it's a focused single incident from your life within some sort of limited time frame, whether or not it's of just a few minutes or the course of an afternoon. There's a range of limited time frames. It's really going to access your ability to use Christensen rhetoric and write with sensory details. It's in the first person. It'll include some dialogue. Some of the dialogue may be recreated. I lost my spot. There it is. Dialogue. And somewhere between 500 and 1,000 words. Most people are in right around the 500 word range. 1,000 starting to get to be not too long, but it's starting to be a little bit long. Inside this packet, there's some topic suggestions. Some people have a really hard time trying to figure out, what meaningful event from my life that I've constructed some meaning from, or grown from, or it's just an important experience in my life. Some people have a hard time deciding which moment to write about, and even brainstorming moments can be tough. So there are some suggestions right here. I'll try to help walk you through some of them. And then we get into thinking about, in terms of telling the story from a very vivid sensory place, what's that going to look like? Writing Like a Pro is essentially just a review of some of the Christensen stuff that we've been learning about. Same with the showing, not telling idea of writing. This is all just Christensen type stuff. An example talking about how to punctuate dialogue, and then a series of other personal narratives that you can lean on and learn from, and maybe even apply some of what you learn from just reading some of these other examples into your own story. So there's a bunch here, and you may end up reading all of them. You may end up reading some of them, but they're all worthwhile. And I think this thing culminates in some feedback, either peer editing or your own self-editing, and finally the rubric. So we're going to a place where we've kind of been static in terms of learning and doing. The Romeo and Juliet unit was kind of static. That's my own fault for being stubborn and continuing with it, but now we're in a place where you're going to be asked to construct a piece of art, a literary piece of art. So, and your first assignment looks like this. There's a list of literary devices. These are tools that writers use in order to create. You know, these are the hammers, the wrenches, the nail punches, the screwdrivers, the screw guns, the sanders, the tools of the trade, so to speak. And you don't necessarily use them all, but depending on the job, what you're trying to accomplish, some of these tools are more useful than others. And what I would suggest is that as you look through the list, you may realize, like, well, on a surface level even, I understand a number of these texts, and then there are some of these words that you may not necessarily have a good grasp on. Like, for instance, maybe you don't know what assonance is, or a cliche, or consonance. Maybe you don't know how to explain mood necessarily, or onomatopoeia, or what resolution is, or how to explain tone. So there may be some that you understand better than others. And in terms of, how do you tackle this? Well, I think the internet's going to be a big help to you in terms of looking up words. And if you decided, to print this packet and have it out in front of you, that's certainly your own choice. It is 34 words. If your printer can print double-sided, it's really only about 15, 16, 17 pages. But if you just need a place to put this work, you could essentially, I'm going to make this happen from the bottom up. You could copy it and paste this work somewhere else. I use Notes a lot. Not sure what you use. Here's my Romeo and Juliet stuff from before. And you could paste it here, or you could do it right in Word. And I'm gonna have to format some of this, but that's your first assignment. Review, look up any words that you don't know here, and keep track of them. There is a quiz more toward the end of the unit that will ask you about each of these. But for now, study the ones you don't know as you continue to compile definitions for the ones even that you do know. And that's your first assignment for this personal narrative unit. I imagine you'll have at least half of it done by Wednesday. I would assume to have half of it done by Wednesday, maybe even more. But of course the quiz is not happening right away, so if you continue to put these together as the unit goes on, that's fine, or you can just knock them all out at the same time. Anyway, that's all there is for this first unit in Schoology. I'm sure we will be back soon with a video update for your next assignment.